For this demonstration, I'll be making use of 3 frames. This one showing the flag, this one showing Scott running past, and this one with Erwin beside it. Since their helmets are the same size, to get the right perspective, I'll be comparing the curvature of the helmets shown in front of the flag to the one that's beside it. First, to get the flag positioned. The flag was 30 by 48 inches, making it 1.6 times wider than high. So we'll draw a rectangle with those proportions. Next, we need to position it by fitting it to the straight edges at the top and left of the flag. So we bring it forward, across to the right, rotate it vertically, tilt it back a bit. There. Now it fits the top and left edges. We can put a flagpole in, add a ground plane, add a flag pattern. We can also crease it to resemble the original. There, that looks pretty good. We'll stop for a bit and check its orientation. From above we see the flag at a 45-degree angle and tilted back slightly. This orientation matches the original. Here you see Erwin walking behind the flag with his feet in front of the flagpole. He then moves a bit further and his feet go behind it. So the 45-degree angle is correct. Now get back to the front perspective. Next we'll look at the frame showing Erwin beside the flag. Here he's planted it in the ground and has just let it go. We can see his feet are at either side of the flagpole, which means his helmet is level with the flag. I'll use this information to compare the helmet size to the flag. First, I need to enlarge and reposition the frame to match it to the main flag picture because the camera was angled and zoomed differently when it took the earlier frames. Okay, that's right. Put the created flag back again. Next, we create a sphere directly on the flag. Move it to the left. Now enlarge it so it matches the helmet size. And widen it to match the curvature. Now it matches. Next, we replace that frame with the later one where Scott is passing in front of the flag. There. What we need to do is bring the sphere closer and reposition it to match the new helmet position. Start by moving it to the right. Now a bit forward. There, it matches. I now have the flag and helmet in place. Next, I need the body. We will look at this Apollo 15 front perspective of Scott. By measuring the helmet and body, we find the body is 1.9 times wider than the helmet. That's including his shoulders. So we draw a box 1.9 times wider than the sphere. Then turn it sideways. Okay, we now have the flag, the helmet, and the body all in place. We're now ready to see a side perspective. Here goes. Well, it looks like he's passing pretty close, although not as close as what Killian showed. Let's look again at the top perspective. Now to set the astronaut in motion. Okay, he came quite close to the corner. Now, admittedly, I've been fairly conservative in measuring the body width by only including the width up to his shoulders. And it's possible his left elbow was jutting out, making the body wider. If that were the case, his elbow could have brushed the bottom right corner of the flag. But this possibility hardly matters, because as we've seen already, the flag started moving well before he got near that corner. And this diagram shows the left side of the flag was too far away from him to brush, not without running into the supporting rod. Another thing this diagram shows is how air pressure could have moved the flag so easily. The flag was at a 45-degree angle, so as he ran past, air could have been pushed directly onto the flag. This concludes our demonstration, and pretty much wraps up all the stuff that Killian said about the Apollo 15 flag. But we're not done yet, as Killian flogs a few more dead horses.
So what do you think? Do you think that the moon hoaxers are smarter than the best scientists in the world and have uncovered the greatest conspiracy ever? Involving not only hundreds if not thousands of scientists and engineers.
Oh please, give it a rest already. The Soviet N1 program involved thousands of scientists and engineers, and its existence was covered up for 3 decades. No one outside a tiny Soviet elite ever knew of the launches. Even Encyclopedia Astronautica described it as the real moon landing hoax. The internet is alive with websites detailing Apollo moon landing conspiracy theories. There is almost nothing on the real moon landing conspiracy, that of the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union had 2 huge secret projects designed to win the moon race. The L1 project would send a Soviet crew around the moon before the Americans, using a stripped-down Soyuz spacecraft launched by a proton rocket. The L3 project would beat the American Apollo program to the lunar surface. The Soviets lost both races. In the case of being the first to send a man around the moon, that loss was measured in days or weeks. After the loss, they perpetrated a hoax. They claimed they had never been in the race to begin with. The Soviet manned lunar programs were only made public after the fall of the Soviet Union. But all has not been revealed. There are still other mysteries, still information withheld. Further, it's not like everyone at NASA would have needed to know about this conspiracy. The technicians at Houston only read the information on their monitors, and make decisions based on the readouts. They don't need to know or care where the data comes from. Remember too, it was the NASA-owned Deep Space Network, a la Madrid, Australia and Goldstone, that feeds them this data. So all NASA's Deep Space Network would need to do is send pre-arranged data from simulated tapes over the landlines to Houston as though it were coming from the moon, and no one's the wiser. It's important to note that I got this information from Jay Windley and Robert Brannig. Brannig wrote,
"The flight controllers in the Mission Control Center, MCC, read only what was on their computer screens, and wouldn't have known where the data came from. Thus, it can be argued the MCC flight controllers could be fooled by simulated data."
And on Jay Windley's site,
"There were 2 groups of people that dealt with telemetry during Apollo. The operators of the manned spaceflight network collected the radio signals from space and relayed them over landlines to the Mission Control Center, where they were collected and displayed. At MCC, the flight controllers interpreted the data and made decisions affecting the mission. Simulations were easy to set up. The instructors simply disconnected the outlying stations from the MSFN hub and substituted an equivalent stream of simulated data created by their own ground equipment. The controllers at MCC didn't know or care where the data came from. It was specifically designed this way so that simulations would be indistinguishable from the real thing."
Yet, when I brought these revealing statements up, one individual, who seems to have the biggest anti-Jarrahite blog, claimed to receive this email from Mission Control Ecom technician Cy Leibergott. The simulators were good, but far from being perfect, and they always required some clugs that Pete Kaplatch or others had to fix each time we ran a simulation. The data flow paths were different, and the sequencing of data from the tracking sites pre-processed into 2.4 kilobits per second, or I believe later 4.8 kilobits per second bit streams. We did elaborate checkouts of these paths from the bird to a spot on our displays or event lights. The tracking sites knew where their antennas were pointed and when they had the data, etc, etc. The questioners must think that we are stupid. Hundreds of us, that is. The data was recorded, archived and analysed by dozens of engineers. Don't they know it was us who conducted simulations, so we would be fooling ourselves? That's weird, because that's not what Liber Superior Flight Director Gene Kranz told us when interviewed for the video adaptation of his book. Failure is not an option.
The simulations were so real that no controller could discern the difference between the training and the real mission.
So, if the top guy assures us that no one on his team could distinguish simulations from actual flights, how could a flunky like Cy Leibergott possibly tell the difference? Clearly, Leibergott is either kidding himself, or lying, or being taken out of context by the blogger.